Yes, sir. You will be the last one to leave. I'm gonna tell you this story. I'm gonna highlight a whole bunch of principles, but the major principle or the talking point about this whole conversation is peer pressure. Peer pressure is not a respecter of person. What does that mean, Mr. Cage? Peer pressure, it doesn't matter if you're 40, 30, 50, 60, 70, 10, 15, 20. Peer pressure impacts us all. Just because we quote unquote transition into adulthood by turning the age of 21, which I don't believe, we'll talk about that on another day, does not mean that we're exempt from peer pressure. Just because I'm 35 does not mean that I'm exempt from peer pressure. Nobody's exempt from peer pressure. You will be the last one to leave. I was in this class, I was subbing in this class. Smaller class, right? Already talked with the students, gave them the assignment, gave them the instruction, introduced myself to them all, asked them how they felt, asked them what their plans was for spring break. All the conversation was had, the connection is built. You have a person that comes in late. You have a person that comes in tardy, comes in with a pass, gives me the pass. I don't know if it's excused or unexcused. He sits next in his regular assigned seat to one of his peers. Now his peer is done with the assignment. I wasn't aware of it because his peer never communicated to me that he was done with the assignment, but he communicated to the teacher's assistant. So I'm redirecting him in terms of keeping him focused on what needs to be done. Find out that he said he was done. Like, bro, you didn't tell me. I understood that you told that person, but you didn't tell me. So let's communicate a little bit better. All right. Okay. Well, he's a gamer. The first guy's a gamer. The second guy, his peer that came in late, was a gamer. So immediately he begins to game, do his game, and whatever game they were playing, I could not tell you, y'all, because I'm not a gamer. But the first student is done and the second student is not. The second student is also using a overwhelming amount of profanity, which he was redirected about several times. To make a long story short, the young man that came in late didn't do the assignment. He refused the redirection that was given, though it was done in a respectful, firm, but yet professional way. I saw him being non-responsive because not only was I redirecting him, but my teacher assistant was redirecting him. And I walked up to that young man and put my finger on his shoulder. And I said to him, "You will be the last one to leave." His response was, "What you mean?" I told him, "I'm speaking English today. You'll be the last one to leave." Bell rings, everybody leaves. Have an awesome spring break, awesome weekend, and even an awesomer day. I had a conversation with the two young men. I shut the door and I said to both of them, next time I see you all, when I come back here, I'm looking for two improvements. Number one, less profanity. Secondly, listen and follow instructions. Their response, yes, sir. Have an awesome spring break. Let's do a quick highlight. Remember, peer pressure is no respecter of person, no respecter of gender, age, nationality, geographical location, does not matter. That young man fell victim to peer pressure because what that person was doing, he wanted to do. So he did what he saw because it confirmed what was really in his heart or in his motive, not understanding the ramifications of how that behavior can transition into a pattern equating to selfishness. So most times when we fall victim to peer pressure, and the deepest level is because we don't understand who we are. And we see people that have things that we want, have people that we want, doing things that we want, and not understanding what process that person went through to get there, or not understanding the motivation that that person operates from. Because if a person operates from a selfish motivation and we see something they doing that we want, we will fall victim because we're looking at the behavior, not the origin. We look at the behavior and not the origin, because we're not asking questions because it instantly gratifies us to do what we see that we want to do. Peer pressure. The last point of conversation is consequences. No matter if you raising a child, no matter if you have a student, no matter if you have a player on your team, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, softball, badminton, whatever. Even if you're in a relationship, every behavior has a consequence. That consequence can be negative or positive, healthy or unhealthy, productive or counterproductive. It's our responsibility to understand who we are and to move in such a way that can provide, in some instances, a consequence for that individual. So you take my case as an educator, not only from an academic standpoint, but more in terms of life skills. I have to put a consequence in place for this person to let them know, per their experience, that this behavior is not warranted and this behavior will equate to this. And if that is consistent, that person will shy away from doing it. Not saying that they'll just stop completely, but eventually he will wean himself perfectly from that behavior. So let's say this. You in a relationship that, hey, there's some expectation that's not being met. Guess whose move it is? Because we playing chess and not checkers. We thinking long-term strategy. If you desire for a person's behavior to change, don't try to change the person. Experience change internally in your life and operate from a place of change in your behavior. And if it's meant for you to be with that person, I won't say it will be meant to be. I won't say that because that's a cliche thought. But if it's meant for you to be with that person, they will receive your change and ask questions about your change and make adjustment to complement the change that you have modeled and the change that they see.